Let's get into this. The National Prosecuting Authority has announced its intention to appeal the recent acquittal of Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotose and his co-accused, citing legal missteps in the judgment handed down by Judge Irma Skuman in the Gqeberha High Court last month. Omotose, who faced a string of serious charges, including human trafficking, rape, and racketeering, was acquitted on technical legal grounds, a decision that really shocked the public and dealt a blow to fellow survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. Now, the NPA's Director of Public Prosecutions in the Eastern Cape, Pabi Moloi, has filed papers to begin the legal process under Section 319 of the Criminal Procedure Act, which allows the state to challenge an acquittal on points of law. NPA spokesperson Advocate Mthunzi Maga says that while the law does not allow the state to appeal based on factual findings, there is reasonable prospects of success on questions of law. The NPA is also investigating the conduct of both past prosecution teams involved in the case, and the findings expected in June 2025. And this move comes as the public confidence in the judicial system is being tested. So here's our NPA spokesperson, Advocate Mthunzi Maga. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners. It's my first time on the show.
Oh, it's wonderful to have your expertise, especially at this time. I feel like most eyes have been on this case before,
understandably so,
during, and now, in this extensive after period. But perhaps, Advocate, if you don't mind, can we start with the basics? What exactly is the NPA appealing in the Omotose case? And what part of the judge's ruling do you believe was legally flawed?
Of importance for us is this devastating impact the judgment has on the entire criminal justice system, on our fight against gender-based violence in terms of the prosecution and of those that would have aggrieved or violated the rights to dignity of many victims. Now, we then took a decision to assemble a team of prosecutors that are experienced internally, and then we supplemented that with independent senior counsel to advise us on the possibility of appealing or otherwise the judgment. They went through over 2,000 pages of the transcript, including 3 judgments that were delivered during the trial that ran for over 7 years. So what they then did, they gave us a well-considered and legally sound opinion that there are reasonable prospects of success on appeal, namely 2, but there are many, but I'll just outline 2. 1, that we take the view as the NPA family so, that the Honorable Judge misdirected herself on the law in applying same to the facts, because a lot of time was focused on the ineptitude or otherwise and the unethical conduct of the prosecutors that handled the case. And not much time was sufficiently spent in evaluating evidence in respect of each witness who testified. It is not even clear the factual findings that led to the acquittal of the accused persons. Those are the points that we are taking on appeal. But remember, in respect of an appeal by the state of an acquittal judgment, we can only do so on a point of law, unlike an ordinary accused who's aggrieved with a conviction.
And the public may not understand the appeal on facts and an appeal on the points of law. So can you explain that to us? How does Section 319 actually works, and why it limits the state? Why it limits what the state can challenge?
For example, a judge would say, I listened to this witness, and her demeanor was not impressive. She was evasive, and therefore I acquit. That's a point of fact, because she was steeped into the facts of the matter. But when she applies a legal principle to acquit an accused, let's take an example. We talk of similar fact evidence in terms of consistency and trend and all of that, modus operandi, and then she uses that principle incorrectly. We will then say, no. You use the law applicable to that principle incorrectly on the facts. Then we take her on appeal on those grounds.
I see. Okay. All right. And that's important to limit what the state can challenge.
Yes, because it would be a free-for-all. I guess that's the rationale behind those that drafted the legislation.
Okay, so some of the key points in the judgment that the NPA disagrees with, what are those? Can you tell us, Advocate?
I have pointed out that we feel that on the law, she misdirected herself because she was required to evaluate the evidence of each witness. And then when you say this witness, I reject the evidence, you state why. And that is not apparent from the judgment. Secondly, you did not apply the law properly. That relates to issues like similar fact evidence. But I'm constrained in getting into an analysis and assessment of that because we still have to go to the court and argue that case extensively. As a lawyer myself, I can't bash a judge or criticize him in the media. I have an avenue to do that, which is in court. But what we did, my sister, is that we asked, in terms of the DPP Western Cape versus Kuman and another, for a clarification of factual findings in order for us to finalize the provisional questions of law that we've crafted for a consideration by the Supreme Court of Appeal. We did that yesterday. They acknowledged the receipt of that through the register of the High Court in Gqeberha. Once we get that, we'll get the ball rolling.
And I think that is fair. There's been a lot of back and forth about the justice system being under pressure, particularly in gender-based violence and femicide matters. So what message do you think the NPA sends with what the NPA is doing now? And what message do you want to send to survivors and to the public who may have lost faith in the process after this ruling?
Don't lose faith in us. We demonstrated our resolve, our prosecutorial strength and capacity, our prosecutorial and legal prowess in Jocelyn Smith's little girl conviction last week, in a trafficking in persons for exploitation and kidnapping where the victim was not found. We arose to the occasion in respect of the victims, protecting them. That's a demonstration of our commitment. Secondly, in the Eastern Cape in Mkomka, a police officer sentenced to 20 years for raping a 17-year-old teenager who was a victim of domestic violence, who went to the police station to seek for help. She was raped inside a police station. When she came out, police officers on duty laughed at her and said she was on drugs. Case had to be withdrawn and it was re-enrolled when our colleagues intervened and reached out to IPID. We are saying we may not be perfect, but Omotose Acquittal is an isolation if one has regards to the fact that 77% is a conviction rate on sexual offenses, gender-based violence through the Tutugela support service that we adequately provide to the victims of crime. Don't lose faith in us. Don't lose confidence in the justice system as demonstrated. We are appealing this judgment in order to ensure that justice is not only seen but manifestly seen to be done.
Well, if this appeal is successful, Advocate, what could it mean in practical terms for the Omotose case? Can you discuss that?
It means if we succeed and the judges are with us, it will be the judgment of acquitting him will be set aside, overturned, and replaced with a conviction.
And this is for him and his co-accused?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
3 of them.
All right, we have a voice note that's come through, and our audience is happy to send voice notes through on 083-303-7093. You can also give us a call on 0861-987-000. I have Advocate Mthunzi Mago's on the line with us, the NPA spokesperson. Have we got that voice note? Let's play it.
Good day, Pabi. Pabi, NPA, it's such a huge embarrassment to the country. They are such a huge embarrassment. I understand the law has got its own terms and ups and downs, but these ones are useless, Pabi. Because they spend so much money for nothing. And look at most of the cases, they follow up on politicians, on our leaders. They lose them, all of them. And every time it's the same thing. We have a watertight case, but nothing happens. And so much money versus the job they are doing. We're working at a loss here. These people are costing the country money unnecessarily, Pabi. And it's so embarrassing, you understand? And all they do is to come and make these fashion speeches here on Power FM. Man, they must just pull up their socks and do their job properly. Thank you, Pabi.
Advocate, your thoughts on what Bas Lolo is saying, accusing the NPA of just being useless, losing money for the country. In many of these cases where it's declared it will be a watertight case, and then it's not.
Well, I understand the frustration. I'm equally frustrated at times because when the Omotose judgment was delivered, it was scathing on us as the prosecuting authority in the administration of justice. However, I have demonstrated to you with the two cases which were a successful prosecution to say there is still hope in the NPA. People shouldn't lose hope. And when we have time, I'll come on your show and demonstrate to you our success rate in terms of commercial crimes, corruption, and other related matters.
So you think it's maybe a case of poor PR?
I wouldn't say that because we have regional spokesperson all over the country. They issue these statements whenever we get harsher sentences and convictions on these critical cases. But sometimes media choose those that are juicy, that involve high-profile individuals, and others just get drowned into the periphery.
So maybe that's a commentary on the media and the news outlets as well, which Bas Lolo did mention as well in his voice note. Let's have a listen to the second voice note we've received, Advocate.
As Pabi, I'm just going to say something that's on everyone's lips, that the judge received a brown envelope.
Yeah.
The only thing we need to find out how much she got paid. We need to find out when and how she got paid so that we can deal with her decisively. Because nothing in this world justifies her actions. From a woman, we expected her to understand and to sympathize, empathize. But when they say money talks, this is one of those examples that morality in this new world comes way after money. But we mustn't just let it slide, guys. Daniel from Pretoria.
Thank you, Daniel. And his voice note, impassioned as it is, brought up two issues that I picked up. First of all, the accusation of the possibility of the brown envelope, which is a bribe to the Judge Irma Skuman. And the second issue, Advocate, is the issue of why do we expect women to be a certain way as judges versus men being a certain way? It's an assumption we all make. But, I mean, how does that work in a legal framework? Advocate, are you there?
I don't think it's a fair expectation. Normally we say justice has no eyes, and it shouldn't. And judges, I know for a fact that some of them don't even watch the news, but they are not oblivious to the public sentiment out there. But they need to decide on facts, not on emotions. Yes.
And then the accusation of bribery.
I'm not in a position to comment on that because I don't have that evidence before me.
But you've heard that accusation before?
No, I haven't.
Not in this specific case, but in general.
I've heard it from politicians sometimes, but I disabuse myself of viewing legal issues from an emotional, uninformed, and political perspective. That's dangerous. I'm a lawyer, so I need to deal with facts.
Very interesting. And I don't know if that'll be a satisfactory answer to our contributor there via voice note.
What is important is who alleges must prove.
Okay.
That's consistent with the principle of substantive law.
We understand from that point of view, but I have heard this many, many times. Let's speak to Angela, who's our final contributor. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Pabi. Hi to Power FM listeners. We can't be, Pabi, at this day and age, tolerating this carelessness, this negligence from people who are holding office. You see, from Shamila Batoyi, we must make it a point that these people fall down with him. We've never been so ill-treated by our own black people. We can't be, guys, going to a level where you see bribes, where you see people claiming allegations of bribes throughout Africa. Africa is what it is because of black people, legal justice people that is disservicing their own people. We can't be having NPA. This is a very delicate case where Nigerians and South Africans are highly divided at this moment. Just because this NPA thinks they can talk better, think they can undermine our intelligence and try to pave their way as if we must accept this nonsense. It can't be happening in this day and age. These people must go down. We must make it a point that they move away.
Which people? Who are you talking about, Angela?
NPA, Shamila Batoyi, those people are there because of our taxes. We pay these people to be there. And they are not servicing us as the public. So they must go down. We don't need them. We need people who are competitive, people who are capable, people who have abilities to apply that law. That law that is shouting there must prevail. Must prevail. It took the community, it took people to shout on this case to even go back to court. It was finished. We can't be taking these excuses. We can't. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. There we go, advocate. I mean, you may disabuse yourself of the specifics, but this is a widely held sentiment.
I accept, I concede that we may not have done enough to persuade them to be with us. We are on course in ensuring that we do that which we are supposed to do, as I demonstrated in the two cases that we won last week, which you guys covered extensively. And we request patience, and they've been patient enough. We are trying to ensure that justice is served for the victims of Omotose and broadly.
We're seeing breaking news here on the television that the televangelist will not be deported until his application for a review of Home Affairs decision is heard. It might be unfair to ask your commentary on that, as that is just breaking.
No, I learned of that. It was sent to me via WhatsApp.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it is within the realm of Home Affairs because it was a process, an administrative process by Home Affairs. So I need to get the facts on how they will deal with it, then I'll be able to.
Hence, I said perhaps it would be unfair to ask to
you
engage
you. Were fair enough. Yeah.
I've got the longest WhatsApp I think I've ever received, Advocate Ntunzi. Let me get through it. It's from Joseph Mutsipo, who says the National Prosecuting Authority is failing South Africa largely through issues of corruption, political interference, or inadequate resourcing. Years of mismanagement and compromised leadership have weakened its ability to effectively prosecute high-profile corruption and crime cases. This has led to a lack of accountability for those in power, eroding public trust in the justice system. The NPA's inability to swiftly and decisively act against major corruption networks has emboldened criminal activities across various sectors. For South Africa to restore justice and to maintain the rule of law, the NPA must be reformed, independent, and empowered to operate without fear or favor. What are your thoughts?
I agree with her sentiments 100%.
Is that part of a plan? Is there a
It's not a
reformation?
plan. It's in motion.
Okay.
The Minister of Justice has made it clear that NPA needs to be strengthened from an independent financial point of view and also strengthened in terms of its prosecutorial arsenal.
All right, we've got another caller on the line. I am speaking to the NPA spokesperson, Advocate Ntunzi Mara, who is talking to us about what's happening at the moment with the Omotose trial, but the NPA has set out to appeal the trial, stating that the judge erred in her findings. Lucky, you're on the line with the advocate. Hi, Lucky.
Good afternoon, Pabi. Thank you for the wonderful show and for taking my call. How are you?
Thank you. Welcome. Very well, thanks. The advocate is ready to engage with you.
Great stuff. To the advocate, I'll just shoot. Great stuff. To the advocate, I will say, advocate, thank you for making time to come and talk to us here. We appreciate it as always. Secondly, advocate, we do realize orators and speakers like you, when you always come on platforms like this to come up talk about burning issues for South Africans. You start off very well, advocate. I'm just going to try and be brief. And when pressing questions come, a person can tell how defensive you people tend to be, and so on and so on. This is very worrying. I'm a layman, I'm not an educated person, but this that you guys are doing, coming here and speaking polished English with no content whatsoever, it's a problem. It's sinking us deep into the rot, and you guys need to know that we are noting it. At some point, it's not going to be nice.
What do you mean by that, Lucky?
People are actually brewing in anger. People are quiet because some of them can access these media channels to express their frustration and so on and so on. I am saying, in as much as good work it's been done by agencies like the NPA, it is very clear that good soldiers in these organizations and setups like the NPA are actually getting silenced. And we get people like the advocate himself who come here and speak, and speak English, but with very little content. This is worrying, Pabi. I'm saying people be aware that we are not winning the war. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sure. Do you want to comment on that, Advocate?
It would have been nice if the caller had demonstrated to us, for the benefit of myself and the listeners, where content was lacking. Because, one, I have not been defensive. I think you can defend me on this one. I have acknowledged the challenges that the NPA is facing. I have demonstrated where we have strengths, and I have demonstrated where we need to be strengthened. And I have expressed our concern at the acquittal of Omotose. I can't be insulting the public sentiment that is frustrated at this and then say, no, we did well. We did not do well. That's why we are saying, let's investigate even the prosecutors that against whom adverse findings were made, so that we can correct the wrong. No system of government is perfect anyway. We don't claim to be perfect. But when we are told that we speak good English and without content, I would have loved for him to say which question I did not try to answer. I may not have answered it to his satisfaction because there's a certain way that he expects me to answer, which I did not please him. I am sorry if I did not do that.
Here's the final voice note.
Good afternoon, Pabi, and your Power FM listeners. This is David from Hamilton. Pabi, blaming the NPA using emotions, it takes us nowhere. The law doesn't work like that. The law works with facts, not with public opinions. As your lawyer, as your guest there said, you must bring facts. I can wake up today and say, hey, the judge took bribes without evidence because the verdict didn't suit my narrative. So I think we must desist from this thing of just throwing accusations that are baseless.
Well, there we go. An echoing of the statement that you've made time and time again throughout our conversation. Do you think South Africa is being emotional, or do you think there are certainly things to be fixed and perhaps we need to always just get feedback from the NPA?
I understand the ordinary man in the street when he is emotional. Because whenever there's a person that is arrested, the expectation is that the person is guilty and therefore he should be in orange overall. And there's an element of being oblivious to the fact that he's innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
But when a person occupying a particular public office, being a politician, gets emotional and starts attacking the justice system, then it becomes a worry for me. That's why I'm saying I am sympathetic and understanding to the ordinary man in the street when he gets emotional. I can't blame those people. I've been a victim of crime myself. At some stage, I was failed by the system. That's why I'm saying the system is not perfect, but we're working tirelessly to ensure that we strengthen it.
Well, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for engaging with us. That's Advocate Mthunzi Maga, who is the NPA spokesperson. Thank you very much, Advocate, for your time.